Good morning, guys. How's it going? Welcome back to Seed Play channel. My name is Brooke, and today we are doing something blasphemous to get the late summer garden ready. So I'm in Texas Zone 8B. That means our spring summer kind of season is ending because it's getting really hot. And my determinate tomato plants have put on tons of fruit. I'm actually canning, I think today my canning projects take me well over 75 pounds of tomatoes that I've grown in my backyard. So by the time we're said and done, we're probably gonna have over 100 pounds of tomatoes, which is amazing. That's actually double what I did last year. However, as to be expected, I'm a little tomatoed out. So the first step to kind of flipping the garden into late summer things, which are sweet potatoes, melons, okra, and then we're going to be doing some really interesting cover crop stuff. The first step is topping tomatoes. Now, if you've never heard of this before, topping tomatoes is basically where you take your pruners and you chop the tops off of your tomatoes. So determinate tomato plants are a determined height, which means they will generally stop growing. However, it's getting so hot and these tomatoes are like still trying their best, but I've had enough tomatoes, so like I'm good. We don't need any more. So I'm only going to be doing this to my determinate plants, and what that's actually going to do is it's going to send the rest of the energy that the plant has into ripening the fruit that's left on the plant. I also need to get out here and pick tomatoes because it's so hot. The tomatoes are ripening super fast, and I'm out here picking probably 5 to 10 pounds of tomatoes every single day. So I want to show you how to top tomatoes, and then I'll kind of show you the progression over the week of kind of how that looks, and then eventually we will fully pull the tomatoes out, and then I'll tell you what we're planting next. So we're gonna start in this big long bed. This is the big raised bed that has the tomatillos in the back, and I'm actually gonna be pulling the tomatillos eventually as well. I had a couple people comment on my last video and say that the tomatillos were like too wet. I actually think I really agree with that, mostly because the tomatillos are at the back of this bed, and this bed is on a slight incline, so I think all the water really goes to the back of this bed, which is not good for tomatillos. So we're gonna pull tomatillos, we're gonna top tomatoes. Oh, it's like honestly kind of sad, but also if I bring any more tomatoes into my house, I think my house is going to turn into a giant tomato. So I'm even cutting off branches that have little tomatoes on them, and the reason for that is the amount of water and energy it's going to take for that one tomato to ripen isn't really worth my time. So I would rather really cut the tops off of these tomatoes and let the big ones that are on the plant ripen, rather than trying to put time and energy into getting more tomatoes. Okay, y'all, so this is probably at least 5 pounds of tomatoes just out of that bed. So I'm gonna leave this one for now, and I'm gonna work on the other ones at another time, because this is the bed that I need to get ready for sweet potatoes. I've definitely learned, and you may not know this if you're a newer subscriber, but I used to have a community garden plot, and so I kind of got used to doing like everything all at one time. But having a backyard garden, I'm really learning that like slow and steady wins the race. Like just come out here, do something that takes 20 minutes, go back inside, and just kind of tackle it in little pieces. I'm just not used to doing that. I did have a backyard garden, but it wasn't very successful and didn't really require that much management because it wasn't very successful. So yeah, we'll leave those. We'll get to the other ones, and yeah, stay tuned. Hey y'all, we are on day 2 of Big Garden Cleanup Day. I'm very disgusting, but it's fine. And I'm not sure how well you can hear me because of the wind, but these are big boys. I think these were actually semi-determinates. So lesson learned, more support. But they are highly producing plants and they look really good. However, I'm noticing some of these are getting blossom end rot. So it's just one, so I'm gonna just pull this one and take it off the plant. We're gonna keep rocking and rolling. Okay, good morning guys. It's a few days later and I am fully dressed for work because I have meetings very early this morning, but I have a lot to get done out here in the gardens. So the last time I filmed, I was topping all of these tomato plants. Now, some of them I've just straight up removed. Some of them are finishing ripening the tomatoes. Some of them don't have good enough tomatoes for me to warrant like keeping them around. So here, I'll show you. So I actually removed all the tomatoes in this bed except for one because it had decent looking tomatoes on it still. But the rest of the tomatoes are gone. They still had a few tomatoes on them, but they were really getting attacked by the leaf-footed bugs, so they were really dry and mottled and they just weren't really worth saving. And then in that bed back there is where my sweet potatoes will go. So I have my slips, and a very kind subscriber offered to send me some of his extras because I forgot to start mine. And so they are actually sitting outside so they can kind of get used to the weather, and then we'll plant them out tomorrow. It's still really hot, but I think it's gonna be okay. Oh, there's my hummingbird. One of the things I wanted to show you this morning was actually how I decide which tomato plants to keep and which ones to get rid of. So this is one that I am pretty sure I'm going to be getting rid of. There's a couple tomatoes on it, but nothing that I really think is worth keeping, especially when I've got so many good looking tomatoes in the freezer. Looks like we might have a couple of decent sized ones that started ripening. So we have some tomatoes on this plant, but I've literally watched leaf-footed bugs just climb all over them and suck all the juice out. So to me, I would rather have this space to be able to plant out my okra for the summer than keep this plant alive for 3 tiny tomatoes that are going to be extremely low quality. Okay, so when I actually take this plant down, what I will do is I will actually find the base of the plant, and then I'll actually cut the base of the plant with some pruners. So the biggest reason I like to leave the roots in the ground is so that they will actually decompose. So with clay soil, one of the really great soil building strategies is having things that root very deeply, allowing that space in the ground that's been taken up by roots to decompose, and that's what helps really break up your soil. So I tilled this garden once, I'll never till again. So doing stuff like this is what's really, really helpful to actually break up all of that root structure. And when roots start to break down, it's called humus, and that's what helps feed the soil. So this is what I'll be doing for pretty much all the plants. There are some that I might be able to like let ripen, like these. Some of these plants back here, the tomatoes still look pretty healthy, so I think they're probably worth ripening, but it's all kind of a game time decision. You just have to look at the plants, decide if it's worth another week. Again, for me, I would much rather have that week to be able to start my okra or put something else here that's going to carry me through the season, rather than wait for my tomatoes to magically be better. Hey y'all, how's it going? First things first, yes, I dyed my hair back to its natural color. I'm very happy about it. So let's just get that out of the way. And now, today's sweet potato planting day. I swear this video has taken me like 2 weeks to do, but this is just real life when you have a life, a garden, a job, all the things. So we do need to get the sweet potatoes in the ground, but first, as per usual, we gotta get debugged. If you want to use natural bug spray, that's your business. I'm all about that DEET life. Okay guys, so here are my sweet potato slips. These are just a few of them. They have really nice looking roots on them. Oh, and apparently there's ants in here. That's lovely. So the reason I'm planting them in this bed is because this bed has really nice loose soil. And I'm gonna put them about 1 foot apart, which is about the width of my trowel here. So planting sweet potatoes, not rocket science. You wanna plant them down with all the roots. So I'm gonna start actually over here. So this one has really, really good roots. And this one, we're just gonna go ahead and plant right here. So once I get all of these in the ground, I'll get them really well watered in, and then I'll show you what we're doing next. Okay, y'all, today's finally planting day. This video is taking me way too long to make, but this is just, life is happening for us right now. So these 2 beds are going to have okra. So I have 3 different kinds of okra. I have your very traditional Clemson spineless okra. I have this Jing orange okra, which is really fun, and then I have red burgundy okra. Now, if you are not an okra fan, I would love to try and change your mind because okra is really, really good for you. But also, okra is really good for thickening soups and stews and curries and stuff like that without any cream or any like flour. So as somebody who's gluten-free, I actually love using okra in that way, more for texture, really than anything else. So I'm just gonna do a bunch of different kinds of okra in the middle of these beds. And so these beds are where we had tomatoes in the middle. And then, y'all, can I just show you this? Look at how massive these peppers are, because I think the tomatoes were kind of shading them out, and they're like almost as tall as me. And I think I'm just gonna let them rock and roll. If it's not really humid where you live, I highly recommend soaking your okra seeds, and you can soak them for like 12 to 24 hours to increase germination. We have chance of rain like every day for the next week. We probably won't get rain every day, but it's very humid here. So I don't anticipate having any issues with germination for that reason. Hey y'all, so for these beds behind me, we're actually doing something really fun that I've never done before, which is cover cropping. So I have 3 different cover crops, and the reason I'm cover cropping these beds, but not necessarily the ones over there, is because when we were originally installing these beds, we did a till once and never till again, which means we tilled the ground one time, and from here on out, we will continue to build up the soil on a no-dig method. But we needed to till the first time just to get the soil broken up and make sure that we're fully ready to support the garden. The cover crops that we have are sorghum, crimson clover, and y'all will laugh at me for this, buckwheat. I didn't realize why it was so expensive. I thought it was just because it was a cover crop and it was like a special thing, but no. I accidentally got like a pound of buckwheat seeds. So really, y'all, my plan with these is to just scatter them. I'm not gonna do anything special with them. And then something else that I'm doing for these beds, because the ground was really hard to till and it was really rocky, and it was just, the ground here was a lot different, and so I think it needs something different than the soil in the other beds. And so I'm actually using sunflowers. So sunflowers are not only very drought tolerant, and obviously they're beautiful, but the other cool thing about sunflowers is that they have an aggressive root system. So if you have clay soil that's really hard to break up, using sunflowers and planting them, like if you literally plant them a proper spacing apart, their roots will just get freaking huge. So I will be planting sunflowers as well to try and really break up some of that hard clay soil. Now the other thing that I did that's going to break up the hard clay soil is I'm actually leaving the roots in the ground. So when we cut down all these tomatoes, we cut them at the base, we left all the roots, and then what will happen when you do that is the roots will actually just decompose, and where the roots were in the soil, there will be this lovely organic matter. So literally, y'all, I'm gonna take like a little handful of all of these seeds and I am just going to scatter them like a crazy person and water them in. These are the crimson clover seeds. Clover is really, really good for nitrogen. That's probably its best quality. Now with cover crops, and we'll talk about this later when it actually comes time, the biggest thing with cover crops is you want to make sure you chop them down before they actually go to seed, or you're gonna end up with these cover crops in your bed for like ever. Well, the sorghum seed looks a lot different. For a second I thought it was a bunch of tiny bugs, but we're gonna do the same thing. We're just gonna kind of sprinkle it, rake it in, and be done. All I'm gonna do is take this little rake in all those seeds, and then water it. Alright, so now the least exciting part will be watering everything in, but that is what I'm planning on doing for my summer garden. So stay tuned, we still have a couple of other beds to kind of get managed, but some fun and exciting things coming up. Now that we have all this stuff cleared out, I'm feeling like very refreshed for a new season. So thanks so much for watching, happy gardening, we'll see you next time.